This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on giving a push to financial inclusion and digital banking. The participants are Udayan Ray, economic analyst, and Sonu Sood, AIR correspondent.
Union Budget 2022 is a progressive, futuristic budget with special focus on digital banking and financial inclusion. Introducing central bank digital currency, connecting all 1.5 lakh post offices in India to the core banking system, setting up 75 digital banking units in 75 districts by scheduled commercial banks are some of the significant proposals in this direction. Udayan, we would like to know from you how important is digital banking and financial inclusion for the overall economic development of the country?
As far as digital banking is concerned, Sonu, if we want to actually ensure that most people in any country get access to banking services, then digital banking or digital empowerment, spread of digital banking is very important, because you cannot be having bank branches by the millions. Now, what digital banking does is it helps you actually reach out to people. Anybody who's got a mobile phone can access digital banking. And now the good news is that we have the technologies, we have the applications through which you can reach out to people. And we are also empowered. We have the digital backbone, which the government has been working on, and also the many private sector players have been a part of the system, and it has got that critical mass with which now we can actually say that banking services can be there for every Indian. So that's important. And because banking is such an important tool, then it in turn empowers financial inclusion. So in financial inclusion, I would include insurance, pension, delivery of any benefits that the government wants to come up with. So it could be subsidy. So if the government wants to target them very smartly and efficiently, and also help people who don't have, say, insurance cover protection in terms of health insurance, life insurance, pensions, then what happens is bank actually, by empowering digital banking, and digital banking reaches out to everybody, to make sure that everybody also gets life insurance coverage, and therefore their family is protected, health insurance coverage is there. And then importantly, Sonu, it's worth pointing out the important role women play in our country. And when you are ensuring the spread of digital banking, financial inclusion, what you're doing is actually empowering the great women in our country who play such an important role, not only in the economy, but in their respective families. So when you look at this, it's economic progress and empowerment in the true sense.
In fact, Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, which was started in 2014, has not only promoted the cause of financial inclusion across the country, but with more than 55% accounts being of women, this Yojana has gone a long way in bringing women under the ambit of financial inclusion, as you just mentioned. The digital pipeline through the trinity of Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, Mobile, JAM as it is popularly called, has revolutionized the government delivery of welfare schemes and made targeting of beneficiaries simpler, faster and accurate. Over the last 7 years, from 2014 onwards, the number of beneficiaries have increased nearly tenfold, from 10.8 crore in 2013-14 to 98 crore in 2021 for cash schemes, in addition to 81.9 crore beneficiaries under in-kind schemes. Would you say that digitalization has been a boon for the bottom of the pyramid?
Absolutely. So, what happens is, if we had gone by the traditional brick and mortar model, we have a very large number of branches. There's no doubt about that, bank branches. So that was never an issue. But the point is, we are such a large country, and some of the other participants, some of the places are not accessible easily. The hilly areas, the areas with forests. So there are people who stay there who are entitled to world-class banking services. Now, what digital banking and inclusive policies like Jan Dhan accounts that you're talking about, they're so important, and we have got a lot of people who migrate from one place to the other. So, how would a person who's opened a bank account in a particular place in the traditional way actually get access to banking services? Only when you have these core banking services, when you have digital banking, that somebody who has to migrate has to move from one place to the other for livelihood can also access the banking services. And so this is so important because people have to remit money from, say, a city to whatever village or a smaller town. So banks play a very important role. They have made things so much more convenient for people.
And also being able to remit money instantly, as you said, as you took the example of migrant workers, it also saves their families from exploitative money lenders because the transmission of money is now so easy and so instant.
Oh, absolutely. And coming to the kind of digital bank backbone, if I'm allowed to put it, see, if you have a Jan Dhan account, obviously you'll have your ID establishing credentials. You'll have possibly have an Aadhaar and all this. When you have all this in place and you have a financial behavior in place, whereas in your account, you're constantly getting some kind of a money and you're remitting that money, it's actually leaving behind a digital financial track record. That actually empowers a bank or any financial institution for that matter to actually extend to you other services. So it could be a loan on better rates. And you just mentioned money lenders, they charge exorbitant rates. So basically what was outside the formal financial system, you're bringing not only well-heeled people who are not using it, but also the person in the informal sector, the self-employed, you're bringing them in and taking out all the reasons, all the impediments that was preventing them from using the formal modern banking services. And what it also does, Sonu, is actually it increases the size of the formal economy. So it is so much better for governance. It's so much better for people who are electing a government.
Absolutely. And connecting all 1.5 lakh post offices in India to the core banking system, which is one of the proposals of Union Budget 2022, how do you see this?
I'm one of the biggest well-wishers of the postal banking because the way public sector banks reached out to people of this country and they actually helped improve India's savings rate. If you see from the 70s, 80s, public sector banks played no small measure in this. They played a very important role. Similar was the role of post offices. They play a very important role. The good old postman still serves a lot of people. There are a lot of people who trust the post office because they think it's a government institution. They come and deposit money. And even in large cities, you just have to go to a post office and see how the number of retired people who are putting in money. And similarly for remitting money, right? So when that becomes modernized, you are just multiplying the traditional banking system. And when it is getting digitized, people can use it that much better, And if somebody has been observing the kind of changes in regulations in terms of depositing and withdrawal that has been going on for the past couple of years, you'll realize how much simpler it has become. But it can become much, much more simpler and it can become at par with many other places.
Also, we have seen that net banking, mobile banking, there is faster adoption and there is an exponential growth in UPI transactions. In this direction, what role do you see the central bank digital currency playing? How will it expedite digitalization and how will it help in making things more transparent?
Well, what it can do is at a certain level, although it's still in the works, I'm sure it's going to take some time in terms of how the digital currency will be managed, what will be the rules, how things will happen. But what a digital currency can do is, again, bring a lot of the economic activity which might be outside the formal finance sector. If somebody is generally holding cash, a lot of people still hold cash simply because they think that, okay, there's going to be an emergency, or if I have to pay something very quickly and to a person who will only accept cash, then you would like to hold cash. But a digital currency, ideally, what it should be doing is you should be able to acquire it very quickly and you should be able to transmit it, pay a person quickly. Now that would alter the way we have moved as far as UPI is concerned, the way we have adopted. If we adopt digital currency that quickly and that fast, then what happens is a lot of people who are right now deal with a lot of cash or think that it's important to hold a lot of cash will actually start holding digital currency. And of course, that doesn't mean that your physical currency will go out of vogue. It will also be used, but that compulsion to use one option and not use another will even out quite a bit. And what also will happen, when you keep a lot of cash, you actually don't end up earning anything. So what that will do is that will also make people be aware. They might actually deploy it in, say, a short-term investment or a liquid investment option, whether it's provided by a bank. And those options, those helpful options will come in. And this will be very, very useful for small traders, small self-employed people who would want quick liquidity and also would want to maybe move the money in and out from their possessions. And importantly, Sonu, what it's going to do is it's going to help the government track the movement. It will help RBI and it will give them one more lever when it comes to their monetary policy.
2017 RBI report of the Working Group on FinTech and Digital Banking had noted that customers were rapidly adopting technology in their daily lives, driven by growth in internet and mobile penetration, availability of low-cost data plans, and shift from offline to online commerce. Now, you feel the pandemic has accelerated this revolution and expanded it to work, education, entertainment, in fact, every walk of life?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things where it has really accelerated whatever the phenomenon or the development that you're talking about, we have seen tremendous acceleration in terms of adoption and use. That's payments, because you cannot get into a contact. So all kinds of digital payments have increased, their usage has increased. Then of course, some of the contactless kind of payments, whether it's credit cards or debit cards or any other payments where you don't have to get into a contact, that has increased in a way which is unimaginable. Things that would have taken us 5-6 years, those things have actually happened. And because the financial behavior got transformed like that, and it has been tried and tested. Similarly, these things started working out in other spheres as well. So you're absolutely correct. Some of these things, which would have actually taken us 4-5 years to reach certain stages, actually leapfrogged, and we have really moved forward. And we are now ready for even more. So that has been the upside of a rather difficult situation in the last 2 years.
As you just mentioned, Udyan, that financial inclusion has made the delivery of various social sector schemes, social security schemes like PM Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, PM Suraksha Bima Yojana much more efficient, and many more beneficiaries have been brought under the fold because of financial inclusion, because of digitization. And also, we have seen coming up of the startup ecosystem in a big way. In the last 2 years particularly, we are seeing unicorns coming up in a big way. So you feel all that is an endorsement of the fact that now is the age of digitization, and that is the direction that every sphere of the economy has to move in, be it banking or any other sector of the economy?
Oh, absolutely. So to give you a sense, I think in 2017 or 18, which is the base year you seem to be taking, there were about 30,000 fintech startups. That's awesome. And it's just been going up because once you have success stories, then there will be other people who will come in. The other important thing which is worth talking about, Sonu, which you have been dwelling on, is the kind of backbone, the UPI and some of the other things, the JAM, Trinity aspects that the government has been talking about. Now, when you do that, then entrepreneurs also get encouraged because it's like, building a road or building a bridge or a port. The entrepreneurs see opportunities on which they can ride on. So when the government moves first and fast, like our government has done, then what you do is encourage thousands of entrepreneurs to come in and start working and innovating. And that is what we are seeing. And the applications are just for some standard things. There are lots of applications that are happening in the rural areas. There's lots of applications, fintech applications that are happening for very, very specified audience and specified kind of functions. So the amount of work that has happened is sensational.
So with the growing adoption of technology, digital banking and financial inclusion are the backbone, and they have got a major impetus in Union Budget 2022. Thank you so much for this discussion, Udyan.
Thank you so much, Sonu.
You were listening to a discussion on giving a push to financial inclusion and digital banking. The participants were Udayan Ray, economic analyst, and Sonu Sood, AIR correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.